there, I feel kind of like.
I sat over here so that the people who come in later can sit in the front.
I sat here because I have to duck out and come back in, but I did shower, so.
Well, we're on the screen. Okay, we go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and call the Resource Conservation Commission June 10th meeting to order. First thing I'm calling the meeting to order is Diane, could you be our timekeeper?
No, because I'm gonna be gone.
Oh, you're gonna be gone. Okay. Oh, no, Jim was supposed to be timekeeper.
Oh,
So
I think we're gonna have to go maybe.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be
Tom's gonna
timekeeper.
have the timekeeper responsibility, I think.
Okay.
That's right. That's what we do. All right. There's no one here for the public appearance for non-agenda items.
Yeah, I guess,
Let's
I
see.
don't know about Rick, what he's there for.
He's going to comment on some other things.
Okay.
Bill, do you understand what the timekeeper does?
Well, I'm guessing I need to make sure that when there's a timestamp listed in the agenda, I give you guys warning saying, hey, 2 minutes.
Try to keep us on
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nailed it. And just for reference, I actually noticed in the staff reference guide that was just released this year for committees that staff are also instructed to keep on top of that. So Ben and I can try to do a better job as well and make sure that I know it's more Ben.
Sounds good.
But Ben and I definitely can be the backups on that and make sure that we're keeping on target.
Okay.
Sweet.
I just move on to item 3, approval of the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes from the February 12th, 2024 RCC meeting. Is there a motion?
Make a move to approve those.
I'll abstain since I wasn't on the committee at that time.
I'll second.
Okay, Diane seconds. Discussion? So everybody got a copy of the draft meeting minutes? If there's no discussion, all in favor of approving the February 12th, 2024 meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None opposed. The meeting minutes are approved.
Bill, according to Gabriella, you can vote even though you weren't here,
Okay.
so.
Well,
just-
I wasn't on the
just-
committee, so I didn't even review those minutes.
But apparently that's okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Review of the draft minutes from May 13th, 2024 RCC meeting. Is there a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Diane first, Chris second. Any discussion?
I just have a question, Ben. Did we say that we were going to review the RFPs in July or August?
So the RFP or the
Solid waste.
proposals will come back July 1st, and then we'll be able to review them at the July meeting.
I thought the subcommittee was going to meet first.
Yes.
Thought I was hearing something. Thank you.
First with you and then discuss it with RCC?
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is we'll have this panel with Chris and yourself to review the proposals. You guys would also be invited, and hopefully we'll be able to attend any kind of interviews with the vendors if we feel we need to do so. But we'll also bring it back for discussion at the July meeting, just more of like a recap and discussion, kind of what we've discussed, and then in August it would go through as the actual resolution.
I'm just wondering the timing, if they're due back, did you say they're due back July 1st?
Mm-hmm.
And when is our RCC meeting in July?
It's July
about
11th.
this. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
July what, 11th?
Mm-hmm.
so we have 10 days.
Or sorry, the 8th.
Oh, the first is a Monday, yeah.
Yeah, it's the 8th.
So it'll be a little tight with the 4th of July week, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, Ben works through that.
It's a warrior.
anyway, I was just wondering if that was a typo, if that's actually what we discussed.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
Okay,
Any other discussion on the May 13th meeting minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed. Draft meeting minutes approved for May 13th. Next item on the agenda is new business, 4A, food waste collection opportunities, Sustain Dane. And so we have Samantha Warden here to talk about the program. Ben, do you want to introduce her?
Yeah, sure. So Samantha Warden with Sustain Dane. She's going to be here talking to us just about some different compost opportunities. I think primarily what's kind of been successful at the Dane County Farmers Market with their food scrap collection program. And then, you know, I think we'll have a good opportunity to ask questions and kind of learn from how this Dane County kind of pilot project has been going. And Sam, you can of course, you know, share your screen and then kind of flip through the presentation that way.
And then just for reference as well, so I co-presented with Sam at the State Solid Waste Conference back in February. So she talked about this pilot. I gave an update on what was happening in the schools with recycling, and I've worked closely with Sustain Dane. They've been a good partner since we started the carton recycling at Aldo Leopold School in 2019. Without their help, we wouldn't have expanded to where we are now, which is 17 schools in the Madison School District now have carton recycling. So I'm hoping to get the rest of the way there next year. And Sam's been a big help with that as well.
Well, thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Huh?
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get the presentation up. Can you all see that okay?
Looks great.
Cool. So like folks that introduced me, I'm from Sustain Dane, so I just wanted to give a little bit of background in case you're not familiar with us. I have our mission statement up on the screen, which is to inspire, connect, and support people to accelerate sustainable actions for community well-being. Here's a picture of our staff at our summit. Very small team, 6 people, 6 full-time, and we get a lot done and our jobs overlap. We work on a lot of different projects, as you can imagine, on a small team. And we kind of view sustainability very holistically. So a visual that we like to use are these kind of circles that encompass not just having a healthy environment, but also looking at the social equity piece with being very people focused, and then also having a just economy and focusing on the profit piece, because we believe that you can't really have one without the other. So we like to use this graphic on the right because it kind of has them each circulating on one another, really show that they are so intertwined and we can't really separate them. So that's kind of our viewpoint on sustainability that we like to take in with all of our programs. So like what was mentioned, I'm going to be talking about our free food scraps collection program that we've been working on for the past 2 years and doing again this season as well. So basically, it took a lot of partners to get there and some grant funding to get it started, originally through the USDA, and now it's transitioned to being City of Madison funding after that grant funding ended, and we were able to continue the program. So kind of how we started this program, we worked very closely with City of Madison staff and both the sustainability and the streets department. And they helped us a lot with creating the marketing material like you see on the screen here so we could get the word out. They helped with logistics of storing the materials, washing out the bins, helping out with supplies, and also helped us reach a broader audience just so that we could reach as many people as possible. And then our next partnership was with Neighborhood Food Solutions Farm, and they're a farm in Fitchburg, not too far from where you are all right now. And Robert Pierce is the director there, and he does a lot of work that supports folks that maybe wouldn't have had access to farming, and so gives them the opportunity to learn how to farm, give them the land space, and also does work with formerly incarcerated individuals and a lot of teen agricultural programs and some different things there. They have a great need for the compost because when they first bought the land, they only could use about 1/4 of the land because of how poorly taken care of it was prior to being owned by Robert. So he's really thankful of all the food scraps we can give him because it's directly used on his plots of land there, and then he can sell it direct or grow produce and sell it directly into the farmers markets. Next, we had to acquire all the necessary supplies and materials. So this was things I'll show on the next slide that has some pictures, but things like the totes and the scales, record keeping things, lots of signage, things like that. And then also some operational logistics. The main one being having a vehicle to transport the food scraps, since we are collecting them at a central location and then having to bring that to the farm and then having to transport materials to and from places as well. We also had to get some market staff and volunteers to help run. So some of this was sustained aid folks. We hired some compost interns, also had some volunteers at the stand. So that really helped make things smooth, because we don't want it to take too long to have folks come through. We want them to have a good experience. So that was kind of program creation. And then I'll get a little bit into kind of what a season looked like. So we have this graph here that shows the two seasons that we did the past 2 years. The gray line is East Farmers Market, the green line is South Farmers Market, and then the top line there is the combined total of both of those markets. So you can see it starts out a little slower in the beginning of the year, maybe less produce at the market, some folks not coming out, and then that really increases, peaks in August and September. And then the market usually only goes through the end of October. So then obviously it teeters out a little bit at the end there. And then in total, between the two full seasons that we've completed, we've collected just shy of 30,000 pounds of food scraps between those two sites together. And then these pictures on the right kind of help paint the picture of what it looks like for folks to come visit our market stand. So you can see all those black storage totes lined up. That's what we put the food scraps into to be transported to the farm. That's really a good vessel that we found works well. And then the intern in the front, that's holding that yellow bucket and the luggage scale. So usually we have folks bring their food scraps in whichever way they want, plastic bag, compost bin, whatever it may be, dumps it into this reused kitty litter bin, we weigh it, and then that gets dumped into the black storage tote. So that's kind of off to the side. And then underneath the tent, we have more of those like informational material. You can see in the bottom left picture, some signups, information on local events that are happening, and more information about the program, that sort of thing. Both markets have a very similar setup, and they're both on Tuesdays in the summer, just at slightly different times. The South Madison one is off of Park Street by the Madison Labor Temple, and then the East Farmers Market is at McPike Park. And the East Side one's kind of more of a traditional farmers market, a decent amount of vendors there, whereas the South Farmers Market is a bit smaller. It's typically just us, and then Robert Pierce, the farm that we give the compost to, sells his produce directly there. So it's a cool store to tell that people could drop off their food scraps and buy produce that was grown into their food scraps that was turned into compost. Next, I wanted to talk about just some season impacts and benefits that we saw. So across the two seasons, we had about 5,000 total program drop-offs between the two markets. And the amount of compost that we were able to give Robert was about 40 new beds of regenerated soil. And you can see here from the picture in the bottom right, that one on the way right, the bed has that compost laid on top, has that nice rich dark color, and then the other ones haven't gotten it yet. So you can see that difference in how richly it can grow the soil there. And then the top left picture has a picture of the huge compost piles that Robert has at his farm. He does all the work on the backside with his staff of turning the compost piles and making it into compost and spreading it. So basically we just have to get the compost there. And then we have some pictures of the bins that have the food scraps that we brought there. And then two other non-numerical impacts that I wanted to bring up were community education being the first. We found this to be a really good opportunity to talk with folks face-to-face on like what is composting if they don't know that, the benefits of it, why to do it, maybe what contamination is. Like this face-to-face conversation is really the best way to help get the word out there, and then they might tell their neighbors. We do have material that they could bring additionally home with them, but those conversations are some of the best interactions that we have. And then we found that all of these positive interactions lead to the high levels of engagement. So we do have those regulars that return to us week to week that want to come back, that say, oh, I like shared with my church group or my classmates, like I love this program, I'm doing it, want to spread the word and help us increase those levels of engagement. So we really appreciate the folks that keep coming back. And we do think that stems from our customer service perspective that we're bringing to it. And I want to then go over some takeaways that we had from it. So leading from what I just said, the customer service perspective, with these regulars, they would always say how thankful they were to our interns. During one of the heat waves of last summer, they even brought like popsicles with them. They're like, we knew you would be here. You're withstanding this heat. Like, so are we. We're bringing our food scraps and we wanted to thank you for that. So they really do care that we're all out there in all weather conditions as long as it's safe. And so they wanted to show that. And we also conducted a survey at each of the ends of the 2 previous seasons to kind of gather some feedback. And I have some quotes on the next slide that I'll share. But mostly their only points for improvement were to extend collection times or offer it at different days or more markets. Basically, they just wanted more of it. Unfortunately, we are a little limited to funding in that opportunity, but it's something that we're definitely working towards. Next is a reduction of contamination. We found that obviously compared to some drop-off sites that might not be monitored or don't have that face-to-face interaction, folks can't talk you through with like, oh, we can't take the produce stickers on your produce because they don't like break down the same as the produce skin does. So if next time you could take those off, we'll still take it this time and take the produce stickers off for you. But next time, if you could look out for those, having those types of conversations really do reduce the amount of contamination we see. Sometimes we've done some targeted signage as well, which has really helped. Next, community and campaign engagement. We placed a lot of different flyers in different areas by both markets in different community areas like coffee shops, places of worship, community centers, that sort of thing. And those really helped. We noticed an increase in people that came to the market after hanging those up. We also held a kickoff event at the South Farmers Market where we brought the trash lab and did a little kid-friendly event, which you can see in the upper left photo. So that helps bring some more families there that maybe not wouldn't have been there originally. And then partway through the season last year, a couple of our interns came up with the campaign Operation Double Hippo, which meant having the goal of collecting 16,000 food scraps, which was about the weight of 2 large male hippos. And in the end, we were able to collect over 18,000 pounds. So we said that we were able to create a little hippo family since we had just a couple of adult hippos and maybe some baby ones thrown in there as well. And so this campaign drew a lot of attention, had people excited, wanting to bring food scraps. Not that we're encouraging people to waste more food to up our numbers, but hopefully just get more people in and get the word out there. So that really helped. And then lastly, next steps for us. The funding for the past 2 years, like I said, was USDA funded. It's since transitioned to City of Madison funding at those 2 farmers markets. And then we've also been able to City of Madison has been able to prioritize wanting to expand it. So we're starting with 2 sites, but we're actually piloting a 3rd site on the west side, which will start probably mid to end of July. So we're super excited to see increased engagement there because we're offering it on a different day of the week. And so we're planning to do Saturday mornings, which we think will have just increased accessibility overall for folks that maybe won't be able to come during the week to the other 2 markets. So I want to share a couple of those quotes that I mentioned from our feedback surveys. The first one is one of my favorites. Says, everyone was so friendly and positive, which encouraged me to keep making the effort. And the second was convenient, friendly, enthusiastic folks collecting the scraps. It is good to be part of an effort to compost and keep materials out of landfills. So we could really hear the passion of a couple of folks come through on those surveys, which was super nice and just heartwarming to pass those along to the interns as well, since they're kind of the front-facing crew to the community. So switching gears a little bit, I just kind of wanted to, after talking with Chris about maybe like a potential to expand, I just kind of wanted to throw some ideas out there about what it could look like to do a Fitchburg pilot. So just all these things could be changed depending on like length and how much budget and whatnot, but just to kind of put some numbers in perspective. If we were to pilot for the last part of the season, which I looked up your dates, so August 1st, I just picked as a start date, and then it goes through Thursday, October 24th. That's 13 weeks long. For your market, that's on Thursdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Probably need about 2 to 3 market staff. 2 of those could be paid and 1 could be just a volunteer. Definitely at least 2, and then just depending on busyness is kind of when we decide whether or not we need that 3rd person. And then 2 other things that go into the budget is transportation of the food scraps, which we have a vehicle through one of our partners, Reynolds Transfer downtown, that kind of gives us a nice nonprofit rate. We have a great relationship with them, and they do some great community work. And they wanted to help support this program, so they give us a nice rate to do that at a reduced rate compared to like a U-Haul situation, which is what we've used with USDA funding. And then some just educational signage and material so that folks know what we're doing, get the word out there, have some signage at the table and that sort of thing. So to put some numbers to that, starting with staff, so this would be like those 2 paid interns that I said, 1 volunteer, and then some program management of it from the sustained aim perspective. Rounding out the biggest number, $4,800. You need people to manage the program to get it off the ground, and just having people that have the experience doing it and whatnot already has you starting off with a good foundation. Budgeted transportation to just be $200 since we have that great nonprofit rate. Composter would be a stipend to provide to Neighborhood Food Solutions Farm, just because it takes a little bit extra staff time and equipment use to be able to turn those piles and create the compost. So just compensating Robert and his staff's time for that. And then lastly, materials like any additional bins and signage and whatnot, along with the market fee. So I did some research on the Fitchburg Farmers Market website to kind of see what that market fee would look like for the number of weeks for this 13-week pilot. So I included that number into that line item. So this rounded out the cost for $6,500, which I feel like is pretty manageable for that length of a pilot, and definitely could be shifted to a less number of weeks, could be for a following year, anything like that. And I feel like the program overall is very transferable to market, different municipality. We built a good foundation and know kind of what works so that we can, and hopefully do, expand it to other municipalities and gauge interest, because we have people that maybe work in Madison, they stop by the stand and they're like, oh, I'm from Monona, or I'm from Fitchburg, Verona, and I like wish this was in my city. So we've definitely seen interest there and people want to do it. So it's more so just trying to find the funding in the budget, which we know is tough sometimes as well. So hopefully being able to do it at a decent rate helps with the accessibility to bring that all together. So I think that's all I got. I can pause there. I have my contact info, which can be passed along as well, and I can answer any questions that you have for you right now.
I have several questions. Do you pay a market fee at all the farmers markets that you staff?
Yeah, so the South Farmers Market does have a market fee as well. I believe that one was around $250, $300 for the full season. And then East Farmers Market, I'm not sure if it's just because they see us as a nonprofit and a community resource, but they have not charged us a market fee for this year. But I'm not sure if they do that the same as the other vendors there.
The people that are coming to drop off their compost, are you also, I mean, is it possible that they could be doing home composting?
It definitely could be. We strategically we picked the South and the East Farmers Market because there's a lot of apartment complexes nearby. They're also on bike and walking paths, so maybe people that wouldn't have necessarily like a backyard space, they definitely have those more multi-use buildings and apartment buildings nearby. So we're guessing that some of them don't have access to compost at home, or at least not maybe realistically or financially have the resources to do so, or folks are just a little bit lazier and know they could take a 5-minute walk to drop off their food scraps. That could be a reason too.
Is there a capacity that the farmer has? I mean, how much compost can he handle?
I've asked the same exact question, and his exact words were, no, I can take it all. I think it is really because the full use of the farmland isn't usable yet, since he did just start on that fourth of the land's use because of how poor the soil was in other areas, that he doesn't see a limit to his capacity yet. He knows that we're continuing to grow and give him more and more each year, that he just says he'll take it all and he has the space to spread it out, since he's still trying to get all of his land to be usable.
And my last question is, when people bring their pails or buckets to drop off compost, are you watching it as they dump it to make sure there's not contamination in there? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, and supply our interns with some gloves and some tongs, and they've found some different tools that work for them. Like they've most recently been using a new not only these pliers to peel the produce stickers off because the tongs didn't really grip it. So they are really the boots on the ground work that can tell us what to work. A lot of it you can just see from the initial dump whether or not they put like a lot of bread in there or a lot of bones, like something like that. Like it's super easy to see. And then the interns do usually do like a little dig through before they give it to the farm. Robert can handle some contamination. That's not what we do. That's not the message we're trying to get out to the community, but it is something that we know on the back end that he can take a little bit. It's just, it reaches a point where it could ruin his compost.
It sounds like a great program, and actually Robert spoke to our committee about a year ago because he was having some issues getting some water. But anyway, it sounds like it's nice how their collaboration has worked out.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've got a question, Sam. So how do the participants get like one of these buckets to be part of the program?
Yeah, so one, they can just use anything that's at their house. Sometimes we just have folks bring like a plastic grocery bag, and that's just something they've stored it in all week. And then they bring that, they kind of dump it out, or they can give it to us, and we have a trash can nearby that we can get rid of if they bring a new one next week. Or we do have the city of Madison had funding to buy some small compost buckets, maybe like 8 inches by 10 inches or so, like just some countertop or under the counter bins that they were able to purchase, and we've been able to hand out for free and still have that supply if folks choose to have that, if they don't have it their own source that they want to use at home.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sam, I appreciate you putting together a presentation and just kind of laying out like what it might look like. So just to kind of give us a visual of like what a program might look like in Fitchburg. So I think that's really helpful, and I think we should seriously, consider it. Yeah. One question I have is, I know Dane County was giving out some grants for composting. So is that a possibility? Do you know if that program is still available? Just starting to think about funding sources. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so if you're referencing the Dane County Waste and Renewables Organics Grant, I think is what they called it. The application, it is a fairly simple application, so it could get together fairly quickly if some people have time to spend on it. It was due June 1st, but it's a rolling admission. So it's always something you could email the contact on there. I think Alex Thomas at the county is who to reach out to if you could just send him a quick email. Otherwise, I know it was that rolling admission, so I don't think any winners have been announced yet, but that being said, I don't know how far along they are in their review process.
If we give all this compost to one particular farmer, are the vendors that come to the Fitchburg Farmers Market gonna inquire where they can get some of this compost for their own use?
That would be great.
I guess
I'm
that's
not
up to
sure.
your educational materials, then I mean, we could,
right.
If we didn't have to worry about transporting it, that would be one less thing to have to deal with.
I assume Robert's got a DNR permit for the composting site. That'd be, I think, maybe the hurdle if other farmers, they may not have the permit to compost on their own site, which they would need to get beforehand before starting a kind of food scrap composting operation. So maybe that could.
Sam, do you know if he has a permit in place off the top of your head?
I believe he does, just because of how large scale it is. It might be to a certain size extent that then that requires the permit. So I believe he does because he's doing it at a fairly large scale. And then from us perspective of transporting the food scraps, there's also a hauling permit that can come into play if you're transporting so much food scraps, but we're not near that number yet. I believe it's 40 tons. So we're quite a bit far away from reaching that number like annually. So we haven't had to worry about that, but that's on our radar too. If we ever do come across that, we take the right steps to do that.
I just had a question with your staffing. So were those are Sustain Dane interns, not City of Madison interns? Do I understand that right? And then volunteers through Sustain Dane?
So they're Sustain Dane compost interns. We do the hiring process and the onboarding and then train them. We've been lucky that We've had some returning interns that have been with us over 2 seasons, so they really know the ropes and can train the new people that we had to hire this year as well. And then volunteers, again, we have some returning volunteers, as well as just having like a sign up at the market. Because if people are going to come to the market every week anyway, some people are like, hey, I might as well volunteer and help out when I can. So we get some volunteers that way as well.
So since August 1st is not that far away, I mean, how is this going to get started or who's going to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, so I guess the big thing would come down to staffing really, I think, and then just coordinating it with ProMega. They kind of run the farmers market.
They do,
Yeah, so the city of Fitchburg doesn't, it's not really affiliated, I guess. No one on the city, runs the farmers market, so it would be coordinating with the farmers market staff, seeing if they would charge us a fee to be there. Then I think just staffing, I guess, how does that work with, does the city of Madison then pay you guys for the staff time, for your sustained staff time?
Yeah, they put out an RFP at the beginning of the year to who would be the partner to continue this program. So we competed for that and were selected. So the contract that we have includes both like materials, signage, staffing, and all of it to put on the program.
Well, that would simply, if we're able to just, contract with Sustain Dane, that would make it a lot easier. I mean, I was going to say, hiring part-time employees to do that.
Right.
That's going to take a long time, but if it could be all through Sustain Dane, then I think the first step is just getting in contact with the folks at the farmers market, getting them on board.
Don't we need to get the funding first?
Well, there was that $6,500 in funding, so one of the questions would be, we have an amount in our solid waste account, and I remember we did this for the 2012 pilot. We dug into that, and that was more like residential collection, 300 homes, and then hauling it to at some points up to Oshkosh. So there was more expense back then. This is just a $6,500. So I wonder what the process would be to take something out of our solid waste fund.
Yeah, so you could do a budget amendment. I think with it being not crazy expensive, I mean that's a fairly small figure when you look at the whole budget. It certainly would help to have a grant. So you could certainly apply for the Dane County grant, but I do think we could find $6,500 somewhere.
But doesn't a budget amendment, by the time you get it written and it goes through the committees, do you think that would be done by August?
It's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, it's aggressive, but
I mean, even if we started it a couple weeks later, I mean, this was an example schedule, and Sam said that it could be modified. So if we had to go, start it August 15th because it takes that long to get the approvals. It sounds like even getting a grant from Dane County, when things were due June 1st, if we would have, known that and could have hit that target, maybe we would have had a chance for August 1st. Funding was
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'm
Not
not
sure.
sure.
Dane County grant is closed for 2024.
Oh, okay.
well, it's 2,500, so we'd still have to come up with 4,000.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I think so then it would be fully on us to do, if we wanted to fund it. And then if we wanted to continue it next year, then we, if we had success with it, then the $2,500 could go towards next year's. But it seems like a pretty, worthwhile thing to do just in terms of where Dane County is going, with, potential more infrastructure for organics management in the future. So it gives us a little bit, more insight, but also, most importantly, I think about what Sam was saying, starts to get that community outreach going, that piece going, and I think, you gotta start thinking that way.
Yeah, so I guess next steps, reaching out to the farmers market folks and then taking a look at the operating budget and seeing where we can kind of pull a little bit from to come up with that 6,500, but.
Can't it come up from the refuse and recycling fee? Can't come, like you said,
And that would probably be the account that it would come from, if I had to guess, but maybe there's some other accounts that, take a little bit here or there and, get to that 6,500 and then, take it to council. August might be a little aggressive, August 1st that is, but, 2 months, I feel like.
It's only June 10th, it's not that. I feel like June's halfway over already, but we're not.
It's only a third of the way over.
Yeah, it's only a third of the way over.
I mean, is there a certain amount you don't have to go to council for?
Budget amendments you do.
Yeah, even if it's just shuffling money from one account to another, if it's an increase or if you're moving money.
You still have to go.
So you would have to draft the budget amendment at the same time you're contacting the farmer's market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then by July, I mean, maybe, the whole thing could come back could go to council, be referred back, and maybe we could vote it in July, maybe, it might be.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's close.
Isn't $2,500 the cutoff? If it's below $2,500, then the amendment can just be approved by staff leadership. And once it hits $2,500, that's when council needs to approve the amendment. Am I wrong about that?
That sounds right, but it would be over 2,500, and I think since there's not a line item specifically for, a compost pilot project in the operating budget,
Right.
I'll have to talk with Misty about how she would want that to be done, but.
So in terms of next steps, would it be helpful if somebody took on the, reaching out to Promega, that side of it, and then allow you to focus more on the budget side of things, to help to expedite the process a little bit?
Yeah, if someone wanted to take the lead on Promega, I'll certainly, take care of the financial end.
Sounds like something you want to do.
Well,
You were just over there.
Yeah.
Do you have a
Last
contact?
Yeah, I don't know anybody over there.
I do have the contacts over there
Yeah.
and could definitely do that.
Not that you need more on your plate.
Yeah.
But I do have quite a bit on the plate coming up, but I can take that one on. I mean, it's just a couple of emails. So why don't I write those in for our action items that you'll start on the budgeting process, and I'll do this, and if we can, maybe share some emails with each other and maybe pull around, just kind of keep, each other plugged in as to how that's progressing, then we can talk about whatever we need to appropriately at the next meeting.
I mean, Promega gives out grants. Do they?
Maybe, there's a possibility that, they could potentially be interested in funding a portion of it as well. So, I mean, we could explore that and see if that's a possibility, because, that would also elevate their sustainability efforts, which are very important to them, obviously. We saw that.
Great, well, I think that's the plan here.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, great
Yeah,
presentation.
of course. Thanks for having me. Yep, thank you. I did put the contact information is on the Fitchburg Farmers Market website, so I did just drop those in the chat to help you. But yeah, reach out if you need any questions. I'm here as a resource. Chris can share my email as well, so thank you.
Can you make your slides available to us, please?
Yeah, I can send them over. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to send that and then that contact information, that would be awesome.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
Yep, I'll send that to you right now.
Thanks for your.
Of course, have a good one.
Thank you.
I'll follow with the grant manager at Promega, because we just recently, I'm a board member for the Outdoor Wheelchair Organization. We recently asked them for a grant. They didn't give us anything, but they said, next time, go through this process. So I'll follow up with that.
Okay. All right.
Help you out there on Promega
I
side.
think I've got the 3 follow-ups. How are we doing on time?
It's 7:10, we've got 25 minutes to get
Okay,
through resolutions R90 and 91.
At 22, no later than,
What time?
20 to 8.
20 to 8, okay.
Maybe, it depends on how fast one of us drives.
Take an electric car.
Self-driving.
Okay, let's move on to item under 4B, Resolution R90-24, accepting an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Fitchburg and the Town of Verona for cost sharing of design services for Goose Lake, Petrona Road stormwater improvements.
I'll move approval.
Second?
I second.
Okay, open for discussion.
Ben, how was the feasibility study cost? How was that cost split?
I believe the feasibility study cost split was 50-50, but it was a substantially lower sum of money. I'm not exactly sure how they arrived on that, but I think the way we did it with going based on watershed area was kind of the most logical way, kind of cut and dry. This is what it is.
Makes
Way to
sense to
figure
me.
it out.
That makes sense to me too.
And the town of Verona is more limited than the city of Fitchburg with how much they can spend on certain projects and stuff. So, I don't know that they would have been able to really contribute much more than that for this anyhow. But either way, we just felt, we'll just split it by watershed area, and that's really a pretty fair thing.
You mentioned taking money from the Curry Court. What's the status of that flooding?
Yeah, so I think there's an issue that was caused by the landowner on the very east end of the court. It used to be a landscaping company, and in speaking with a resident in that area, it sounds like they had done some grading on their property that kind of impacted the way that water would get to the end of the cul-de-sac or the court there, but it would have to kind of go up because they filled a little bit on their property, and I don't know that was I don't know if that was shown in the survey that the city had been using in their feasibility study. The survey information from that feasibility study was basically the survey data that was from 2017. The county flies over and they can, with an airplane, they've got a LiDAR system is what it's called, and it can pick up the topography from the sky. So I think that the grading happened after 2017 and wasn't reflected in the feasibility study. And trying to work with that landowner to cut in kind of a overland drainage path to get to the railroad. Right now, the only way it can get off the end of the court is through a fairly small culvert. In that culvert pipe, it just really doesn't have sufficient capacity in larger rain events. So the solution that we'd be proposing is essentially regrading some section of this individual's property to allow the water to basically continue to the railroad without getting blocked by their site.
Fitchburg has an ordinance where you can't grade like that, and which causes flooding on your neighbor, right? So if that was done, it's really...
Well, there's also stormwater easement that was recorded with the plat, which was, recorded in the 60s, or really, really old, where they actually have a building where that stormwater easement is.
Okay.
And that, so, the flow path doesn't have to be where that easement is. Like, I don't think there's any interest in making them take down this building. It can really be anywhere. So it's just trying to figure out what's gonna make sense.
So if you take money from that project and put it toward this project, will there still be enough to solve the Curry Court situation?
Yeah, I think so. I think what the grading project that we would be looking to do would be a very, very low cost solution. And it's not gonna solve everything. There could still be issues with large rain events where there's, some high water through there, but the other solutions that were looked at in the feasibility study, there was, cutting another ditch in basically from the railroad tracks all the way down to Murphy Creek. I don't know if that's really attractive. installation of a pump station. Again, not really the kind of cost benefit you'd like to see. You know, you spend a $500,000+ and you hope that you get some results with that kind of investment, but from the feasibility study, it didn't seem that, you know, while those two solutions may help somewhat, it's not, in my opinion, worth the investment for something that's really not going to prevent flooding.
So the fellow that owns, or person who owns this property is a landscaper?
There was a landscaping business there called Western Landscape. They've since moved. I don't know what they're currently planning to do with that property.
Well, I'm just thinking if they are a landscaper, maybe they can do their own grading.
Yeah, right.
Why should we pay for that?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could point out that there's a building on top of the city's easement and say, you know, you gotta get this water out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say get it to the railroad tracks, I presume the railroad tracks
There's a
are elevated there, or
There's
there's
a culvert
a
underneath, so that's where
Okay.
it kind of all has to go through.
I'm looking at the Google Maps view here, and 400 feet to the north is Hilltop Road. Has there been any problems there? And they're actually closer to the pond here than Curry Court.
I am not aware of any, and that pond is kind of, it's not that dissimilar of a situation to Goose Lake where that area fills in with water, and once it gets to a certain point, it kind of prevents as much water from coming through the railroad tracks as you would like, because it's just kind of sitting there.
Okay.
So, you know, when there were more issues on Curry Court, you know, when it was really wet, 2019, 2020, you would look at that pond and that whole area was filled with water. So that was kind of exacerbating the issue.
And are there culverts, do you think, off the end of Hilltop, or just Curry Court and it was backing up and going back the wrong way through the culvert?
Yeah, and I don't know that it was actually backing up. It wasn't getting that high as far as I know, but it was still high enough where you just didn't have as much hydraulic gradient, basically.
Sure.
So it had to slowly kind of work its way through.
So I assume since the city's gonna pay 75% of the share of the cost, that you guys will be managing the contract and the arrangements? Okay, and you're gonna be the PM on it?
Yep.
Okay. Will Verona have any input in terms of their own PM, or?
Yeah, so Chris Barnes, he's their Director of Public Works, he will be involved as well.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of approving resolution R-90-24, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None opposed? Resolution adopted, approved. Okay, on to the next item, 4C, resolution R-91-24, approving agreement for engineering services with Rupert Milkie, Inc. for Goose Lake Fitchburg Road stormwater improvements. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Approval?
Okay, approves. Second?
I'll second.
Chris seconds. Open for discussion.
Ben, I was surprised to see the part about that the city is responsible for paying sales tax, because the city's exempt from sales tax. So why is there anything in that contract about sales tax? It was under let's see,
5,
yeah.
page 11 of 20, page 21 in the packet.
Yeah, I'm seeing it here.
Page 11.
I'll have to talk to talk to legal about that.
And then my other question is,
Well, I guess to your point though, it says sales/use taxes. If we're exempt from sales tax, could we still be subject to use tax?
I don't think so.
Well, this was our kind of standard agreement for engineering services. I'll have to ask about that.
Yeah, if Rupert Milkie screws up and pays sales tax, they should bear that cost. The section that talks about services not included, who will be doing those?
Those are services that either we feel we won't need at this point, or services that city staff could do, or if we needed to, we would have to contract that out at another time. Are you talking about at the bottom of their level of effort?
No, it's on 1.3. It said the following services are not included. Easement negotiation and acquisition, geotechnical testing, groundwater modeling, phase 1 environmental regulatory floodplain remapping.
Yeah, so other than, the city would contract out the geotechnical testing, because that's just a really easy thing for us to do. So we don't need to, hire a consultant to,
Okay.
Put together the contract for the geotechnical testing.
It says if such services are required, so was this provision put in here assuming we didn't need that?
Correct, I don't see the need for any of these items unless we wanted to complete some groundwater modeling.
So the regulatory floodplain remapping is not required?
Not if we are able to construct and design the project the way we want to. So we're looking to construct a project that isn't going to really impact the floodplain south of Goose Lake. We're trying to add more storage into the system, so we are not increasing peak flows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I noticed there were 5 consultants that submitted, and the city chose the second highest. Why is that?
So originally, I'm looking at the prices here. We had 5, and they were all about $99,000, $98,000 or so. We ended up interviewing Rupert Melke, AECom. We interviewed a consultant named CBS Squared, and then we interviewed EOR. So they just had the top 3 proposals. They clearly understood what the problem was. They had staff on their team that are knowledgeable and have completed similar types of work, and we ended up increasing the contract price after negotiating with Rupert Melke, because we wanted to include a slightly modified design. So this kind of goes back to some of the issues at Badger Mill Creek with them. At some point, they'll be discontinuing their effluent discharge into the creek. So we wanted to see if there was a way that we could essentially provide some sort of a base flow supplement to that creek. And by doing so, that will also help us with not causing big peak flows downstream. So we're hoping that we can kind of just trickle water out slowly, primarily from Goose Lake in that area, to kind of keep that water level fairly stable at Goose Lake, rather than just cutting out, big overflow weirs from Goose Lake and then allowing water to just kind of rush down rapidly. So we did kind of slightly modify what we wanted to see with, some of this new information that we've got out of going to the Badger Mill Creek stakeholder groups and seeing what they're interested in as well.
Ben, was it about a year ago that we were talking about a project that I think it was a retention pond wasn't dug or maintained correctly or wasn't spec'd correctly, and so Fitchburg had to redo it? And I asked you who the original engineer firm was. Do you remember this?
Was this the Techland's infiltration basin?
Could be.
I'm guessing, so there is an infiltration basin.
And who was the engineering firm on that?
I believe it was Veerbecker,
Okay.
but I don't think it was an issue with the engineering design. I think it was more of an issue with the construction of the basin itself, with marginal soils being used rather than the appropriate kind of granular soils.
I just wanted to make sure we're not gonna run into that problem with this expansion, right?
Correct. No, we won't. There won't be any kind of similar engineering going on with this project.
Okay.
What's the work being done up by Goose Lake right now? I pedaled by there yesterday. It was like a whole lot of earth being moved and.
Yeah, so that would be for MMSD's project. They have a new force main. That's about all I can tell you. But it's at the MMSD.
So it's nothing to do with
project.
Goose Lake or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
Any other questions, discussion? If not, all in favor of approving resolution R-91-24, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None opposed. Resolution approved. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes for your time,
I
right?
think actually we should probably leave about 8 minutes before 1:45, so yeah, we have about 10, 12 minutes,
Okay.
just to allow time for parking.
Okay, so we'll move on to item agenda 5, which is council update. Bill?
Yeah, so there's several things here that are probably of interest to the group. We've got, well, the council passed, approved R-8624, which is the locally preferred alternative for the north-south BRT route. So that'll be coming down North Fish Hatchery Road, and current plan is for it to come down just south of McKee Road and turn into Brandon and loop around and then get back onto McKee and head back up. So that'll be the southern terminus there. We'll have a station on Treverton Pike where the bus can recharge, the driver can use facilities, that kind of thing. Everybody in the city of Fitchburg would prefer that it come all the way down to the civic campus so people get to the library, the city hall, et cetera. And Madison Metro is saying that, you know, if they would be putting some of the grant money in jeopardy if they were to run BRT through such a low density area. There's just, you know, south of McKee Road, there's just not enough population, even if there are popular destinations. So what they're proposing is an alternative where this Route 75 and Route 65 get expanded service, so they get service all day long. So we'd have every half an hour, you know, basically every other BRT bus, you'd be able to take the 65 or 75 to get to Treverton Pike, and then, so this would actually open up a route that goes all the way from, you know, basically Verona out east past the civic campus and out to Terra Vesta and then up to Madison. So I guess make of that what you will.
Sounds like a nice compromise.
Yeah. R-7024, the Efficiency Navigator Program in coordination with Sustained Aid to take some naturally occurring affordable housing, which is to say old places that are run down enough that people can't charge exorbitant rents, and they can get retrofitted with insulation, heat pumps, solar, etc. They're looking at a couple of, like, I think 4 to 8 unit buildings. So that'll be nice, because there's places where people are spending, you know, each of those units is spending $400 or $500 a month in utility bills in the winter, and it's, you know.
This is through Sustained Aid?
Sustained Aid is partnering, yes, with the city and with, what was it?
I believe Elevate Energy is the third party.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And so all 3 parties are providing funding?
That I'm not sure about. I thought this was coming from a grant, but I might be mistaken there. I know that this is something that Middleton and Madison started working on, and brought in Fitchburg as well, but Joyce and Mike over in economic development have been the ones working the most on it, so I don't have all the details either.
Right. Yeah, I think Joyce is the primary contact for if you want more information.
This is long overdue.
Yes.
I mean, I see those icicles, those ice dams forming in the winter, and it's like, come on. Good.
Council also approved R4624, which is an Inflation Reduction Act tree planting grant. I think it was Phil, you don't remember how many, I think Scott Endel told us how many trees it was gonna have, but there was a larger component of, I think there was some education to that as well as ongoing maintenance. But it's tree planting in the healthy neighborhoods.
I think Anna Healy is definitely the person to check in with on that.
Sure. R11424 passed. This is going to be a development that's in the quarry across the street from Target. So they're taking a plot of land there, and I'll say there are good aspects and bad aspects to that. They've got a lovely 4-story, several hundred unit housing facility there. And in addition, they've also got an area where it's 3/4 parking lot, 1/4 buildings. Development continues in Hartung Fields. There will be some development out in, further development in Terra Vesa, Swan Creek, and then at the corner of Lacey and Fish Hatchery Road, there's one street where that's been on the market for 10 plus years, and it was recently downzoned to single family from, or low density residential from medium density residential, and apparently they've got some people who want to put up some housing there.
Just right up here, Lacey and Fish Hatchery?
Yeah, next to the iHeartRadio property.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And the only other thing I have was a couple days after our last meeting, we did the Bike to Work Day with the mayor, so I went out to McKee Farms Park and rode in with a group of folks onto the civic campus.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you find out, not to put you on the spot, but did you find out any information about the STAR and whether the city's going to start paying to get that page back?
I had one interaction with Chad, but I was not sure how to interpret his response. But I'll see him tomorrow at the council meeting, so I can make a note to ping him on that.
Wasn't this a council decision to suspend the funding?
So the way I remember it, the STAR wasn't making its way to all the households. The city didn't like that and said, hey, can you do something about this? And basically got, the STAR was unresponsive. And then the city threatened to just cut off ties altogether. And then they said, oh, you want it to go to every household? Yeah, we can do that. It'll just cost you an extra $15K or whatever it was. And as far as I know, that was the end of the matter. And so I was kind of unaware that we had lost a city government page or whatever you were describing.
It was, okay, if the newspaper's like this, so I think it was both sides of the, and that's been gone for well over a year.
Okay.
And that's a huge way to communicate with residents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in fact, the recent survey, so that was the number one means of communication chosen by the survey respondents.
So that's what my question is, is the city going to reconsider and start funding it so that we can have that page back, or are they not ever going to at one point they were talking about issuing their own newsletter, which that didn't go anywhere either.
Yeah. I will follow up again with Chad and the mayor and see what they know.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bill?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right, thank you. One more item, you think?
Well,
There you
if
go.
we get into that, then we're gonna run into our other items.
Yeah.
So, what time are we starting over there?
Q2.
Okay, well, then we can all check it.
Yeah. You guys go ahead.
You'll guard my laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
So we want to go ahead and proceed with item 6 then on the agenda. Okay.
Thank you.
So solid waste update, mostly was just kind of, making some revisions to the RFP. It went live on May 30th. I think originally I had May 27th, but that was Memorial Day, so it's kind of a terrible day to release that. So ended up being May 30th. Proposals will be due July 1st. Other news, so street sweepings, we did send a sample into CT Laboratories. They're a laboratory up in Baraboo, Wisconsin. They do a lot of this kind of testing. And hopefully we'll be getting some results back this week. They'll test for metals and then various organic compounds. And based on those values, we'll be able to figure out whether or not we can use the street sweepings as fill material or, if they need to be landfilled, if there's hazardous materials with them.
Oh, what was the tonnage on those? And I forgot, I think you told us.
Yeah, it's hundreds of tons.
Okay.
Yeah,
A lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Those are kind of the two big items for solid waste.
I mean, if we could reuse those, where would they be stored then? Out at the recycling center? Or?
Yeah, so right now we store them in kind of the back area of the
Okay.
maintenance building and just have a stockpile, and they'll make trips to the Dane County landfill to dispose of them, when they need to. And if we were to reuse them, it would be, kind of the same thing. We just stockpile them, and then when we use them, we take them out, use them for whatever, and that's pretty much it.
Is there, so you said using them for fill, and I presume that would mean, that there's some more stringent requirements for any sort of contaminants. Is there also the ability to use this if it was a little dirtier, like underneath a road as a base layer for that or anything like that?
I think there's a lot of organic stuff in there from like leaves and grass, and typically
It'll settle.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put that in the road, but we were thinking that you could mix it in with gravel that we use on the rural road shoulders, and mix it in with that to kind of create a shouldering material. But I don't know that we would want to put it directly under the pavement.
I mean, is there a possibility that material could be made available to the public, like the topsoil and mulches? Particularly for people that create gardens, raised beds, they can put, most of it fill, then put the topsoil on top.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I'd have to verify that with the
Yeah, if it's safe, yeah.
And it really all depends on what those test results come back at.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anyone doing this in Wisconsin, but in the fall and certain times of the year, the street sweeper is mostly picking up like leaves and organic material. And I understand that some people actually mix that in with their compost, which, that would be a really cost-effective way to get rid of the street sweepings. But, it's going to totally depend on what the content is, and we'll need to get the DNR permit to do this. So once we get the results back, we'll apply for the permit. We'll have to give them some idea of what we'll be using them for, and kind of tell them, hey, we're storing them at this location. We plan to use them over the course of, the next several months for X, And there are kind of like ranges of what you can do if it's, somewhat contaminated. You could potentially still use it as a fill material, but it would have to be covered with clean fill and then some sort of a impermeable surface like concrete or asphalt.
Yeah.
And it really, again, all comes down to what these lab tests say, and this would be something that we would have to continue doing each year to ensure that what we're using we're not doing anything dangerous with the street sweepings.
How much sand do we put down in the winter and like the very first sweepings in spring? Can those be filtered or something to recover some of that sand?
That's a good question. This Fitchburg doesn't use a ton of sand. Now, we did last.
You said.
Sorry, what's that?
You said a ton.
Yeah, we maybe did use a ton this year. It really all depends on the temperatures. So when there's, when it gets below certain temperatures, salt doesn't work. We had that week or so where got a bunch of snow and then the temperature dropped, so there was packed snow everywhere. Then the city would use sand. I believe they'll also use sand at slightly more hazardous locations like roundabouts, for example, is a good place to get a little extra grit. But I think people actually do recover that and basically reuse it as sand the following winter. So if we ever did start using more sand, I think that's something we could consider using it for. City of Madison uses a ton of sand. I don't know exactly what they do or if they reuse their sand at all, but
it'd be pretty sad if it all just went to the landfill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6B, stormwater.
We've got the Greenway Cross Stormwater Improvements Project going right now, so that started towards the beginning of May. They've got all the storm sewer manholes, inlets installed. They're just kind of having to wait for it to dry out a little bit before finishing the road building. They'll have curb and gutter this week, and then asphalt either towards the end of this week or early next week, and restoration. And yeah, the project will be completed, in that mid-June time frame, weather depending. We're also kind of going through our stormwater facility inspections. Our environmental intern has been helping out a lot with that. So we do have the goal of inspecting every city-owned facility each year. So that includes wet ponds, bioretention basins, infiltration basins, but also smaller drainage ways, swales, and some of those other drainage features.
Is that factoring into the, you got your TMDL modeling project coming up later in another bullet point here, but is that part of that? And your best practice management would be?
Yeah, so that's kind of part of our stormwater utility policy is that we do want to complete the inspection of every facility each year. When we go and complete our MS4 permit report each year, one of the questions they ask is, how many stormwater facilities does the city own? How many did they inspect that reporting year? And ideally, you can inspect each facility each year if staff time allows for it.
Do we inspect any private facilities or no?
We wouldn't inspect a private, well, I guess I'll backtrack. So there are some private facilities that the city has some sort of a maintenance stake. So for example, the Chapel Valley ponds, those are just off of McKee and Chapel Valley Road. They're technically privately owned, but the city does have some maintenance responsibility. So in an instance like that, yes, we would be inspecting a private pond. But really the only other reason we would inspect a private facility is if we got a report. So yes, all the private facility owners have to send in annual maintenance reports each year. And if we saw a report that, hey, there's something wrong here, we need to get this addressed, then you know, we may come out and take a look and try to work with that property owner to repair the issue. And if they're unable to, and they have a signed maintenance agreement, the city does have authority to go in and hire a contractor to complete the repair and bill it back to the property owner.
Okay. So the city has no obligation to do those inspections, even if we're going to use them in our inventory to count towards our TMDL modeling?
Well, I think we have an obligation to make sure that the inspections are occurring.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Well,
Like
it's not city staff.
Every private party needs to submit that.
If they have
to the city.
if they have a maintenance agreement and we're using, if they have a maintenance agreement for their facilities, the city is using it in their stormwater quality model. And since we're doing so, I mean, it is important that whatever that facility is operating and, you know, it's meeting the the design requirements that it was intended to. So when it comes to private basins, the city's responsibility is more so making sure that these private property owners are getting the annual reports submitted and then follow up if needed if there are issues. Let's see, we did complete a general permit application and received a permit approval for some wetland fill associated with the Crescent Road Stormwater Improvements Project. So originally we were hoping to complete this project this year. I think it's probably going to be next year. The reason for the general permit is there was about a couple hundred square feet of mapped wetland where you know, this project is proposing to place some riprap there just to kind of prevent future erosion in the wetland area. Right now there's a pretty good scour at the existing end wall in this location, so it's clear that there's been erosion occurring there in the past. So it's kind of just a best practice to try to dissipate the energy as water is exiting that culvert and, you know, getting into the wetland. We don't want that water going through with all that, you know, force and momentum. Try to slow it down.
Put a turbine in there, generate
There we go. There we go. That'd be something. Be pretty innovative.
As well as intermittent.
So staff has been continuing to attend the Badger Mill Creek stakeholder group and green tier meetings. So these are just, you know, kind of coordination meetings.
Has DNR approved the stoppage of the district discharging in the Badger Mill Creek, or is that still waiting?
So I believe the district has until 2028, I want to say, to discontinue their discharge of the effluent. But I don't think there's any chance that won't happen.
Okay.
So does that mean my waterfall along the Military Ridge Trail is going away?
That is what it means, or if it at least won't be from MMSD effluent, but yep, that will be going away at some point in the next few years.
And that is, I mean, is that the major source for the Badger Mill Creek? Is that?
I mean, stormwater too, and there's some groundwater flow.
Well, right, but
So, yeah.
right now there's a pretty constant flow
Right,
into
yeah.
into the headwaters there, and when that gets cut off, is the creek gonna like dry up certain portions of the season going forward?
Oh, well, that is a great question, and it is a major source of base flow for a stretch of the creek. So
Okay.
once you get, into Verona, those other sources like groundwater are becoming a little bit more prevalent. There's a report that EOR did. MMSD did a test where they shut down the effluent discharge for a period of time, and right where it currently discharges, and then for several hundred yards or so, there is a noticeable decline in flow. But then as you get further away from that discharge, some of those other sources, groundwater.
Well, it's gotta have a healthy groundwater flow coming in, because there's a healthy trout population in there, brown trout and brook trout. So actually DNR is stocked there with brook trout, so which requires a colder water temperature. So the only place you could be getting that is from groundwater.
Well, and that was the other kind of benefit of the effluent, is it was a fairly consistent temperature, and it was cool enough.
Yeah.
I think it was probably warmer than ideal for trout, but
Yeah.
clearly
Good for brown trout.
it worked. It's a class 2 trout stream, so. And that's kind of what this Badger Mill Creek stakeholder group is looking at. What are some potential projects to, kind of help supplement that lost base flow that'll occur once the effluent is discontinued. And that's kind of ties into the Goose Lake project. We may be able to provide some sort of a base flow component. Also continuing on with the TMDL modeling project, anticipated completion, I don't know, maybe not August, September, somewhere around then. Deadline is October, so it'll be completed before October. For the most part, the bulk of the modeling is generally completed, mostly kind of reporting, QC, kind of that stuff left for the most part.
Do we know if there's any waste load allocations that the city's gonna be responsible for, or?
Well, the city is currently in the TMDL, so there's a few different waste load allocations that already exist for phosphorus and total suspended solids, but as far as new ones, I don't know about any new ones coming in the future.
Okay.
And then finally, obviously we had a lot of rain the past few weeks. There, for the most part, weren't really any major issues flooding wise. Really the only issue that I was made aware of was some overtopping of Fitchburg Road in one property that had water going into their garage. So we've been looking into maybe upsizing some culverts, basically data collection at this point to figure out what an appropriate step forward would be.
Yeah, I was surprised Fitchburg Road didn't flood.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to just the fact that it was kind of a drought last year, so it can still stack up a little bit higher and higher before it really starts backing water up onto the road. But certainly it's higher than it has been in a long time.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on to item 6C, sustainability. Phil?
Yeah, quite a few items in the agenda, but I'll try to go through them relatively quickly. Save that first one for last because it's the biggest one. Talked with MG&E a couple times about solar farms. There are a lot going into Fitchburg, and I kind of asked about either Fitchburg being able to do another renewable energy rider like we did with the O'Brien solar array, or even better, make some shared solar type things available to lower income residents to try to give them an avenue for a more reliable electricity cost and also hopefully lower, like we got with our renewable energy rider. With the latest one that's going into Strix Solar near Burn and Signing Road, it sounds like that's going to be part of a new shared solar that they're trying to get approved through the Public Service Commission right now, and that would include an option for low income. I'm just working with our contact on the details there and making sure that it would be advantageous for participants. Working on the energy report for last year, a lot of other stuff popping up has made it tough to get that done as quickly as I'd like to, but at the very least should have it ready by September, if not, hopefully August. We finally got an order placed for the replacement inverters for those ones that are broken, non-functional on the Public Works Maintenance Building and the Fitchburg Public Library. Don't have a date yet on delivery or installation for those, but as soon as Arch Electric has any of that information, they will let me know. Got another successful low May. So last year was the no May pilot. We had 78 participants, I believe. Just 66 this year for the low May return, but only 36 of last year's participants re-registered this year. I'm assuming more than that participated again, just didn't necessarily register online. So the numbers that we have are a little bit lower officially than what was there last year, but I suspect that participation was actually overall up a little bit from last year, with the 30 new registrants and probably a lot of returnees who just didn't let us know because they still had the sign, kind of thought that registering once was sufficient. The sustainability plan, we actually do have the draft plan released. That's an update since I submitted these notes to Ben to include in the agenda packet. The draft plan is out, and I'm going to work with Ted, with Pale Blue Dot, and some other folks on the best way to hold some public engagement opportunities. So there will be a presentation to RCC. There's going to be a presentation to Committee of the Whole. I'm going to have to chat with Ted about right now. I think he'd like an early August deadline for getting comments back on this. But that I don't think that's going to work for getting in front of Committee of the Whole, because it sounds like, talking to Gabriella, like the July meeting's pretty packed. We might need to do the late August meeting there for that presentation. And RCC, the July meeting is stormwater focused, so it would be we'd have to swap some things around if I was going to try to fit the Pale Blue Dot presentation to RCC in July. I'd rather do that in August. So hopefully we can push back the deadline for getting. I'll make sure we can push it back. We're the clients, they're the consultant. I'll talk with Ted and we'll figure out how we can make it work. But my expectation is that in early August, and that'll be, I don't remember the exact date, but the second Monday in August, we should get a presentation on that to the RCC, and then once all the feedback from staff and the public and Committee of the Whole and RCC is aggregated, we'll get the final plan released.
So Phil, you said the draft plan is out. Is it available for us to review, or is it just internal?
It is. The draft plan is available. It's linked from the city's website, as well as the projects page on that has been shared a couple of times. But if you look on, just search for sustainability plan on the Fitchburg website.
Okay.
Or if you just go to Green Fitchburg, there's also a link in the sidebar to the sustainability plan.
Okay, great, thank you.
So there's a plan to review, and then either kind of as a high level thing, or if you click through each section on the different topic areas in question, there's a form at the bottom of the page that you can add comments, questions, and the like. So there's a way for any member of the public who wants to look through this and give some feedback to do so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 6D, activities being conducted by or monitored by commissioners. Does anyone have anything they would like to input or talk about? I mean, I don't have anything.
Maybe just a reminder, tomorrow night, or Wednesday night is the EV 101 at the library.
Yep, that's a good point. Yep, we have that tomorrow.
That's 6 o'clock to,
I think 5:30 to 7.
check
I don't know, I have to look, because I have to be there with our car.
let's see here,
It should be a good event. And Chris sent out an email regarding, the types of vehicles that are gonna be there.
Not on the calendar on the front page of the city's website. How do we get stuff on that calendar?
So it's on the calendar?
Well, but it's not.
It's not on your calendar? Huh.
Not if you click on the 12th. It says, yeah.
I got 6 to 7:30.
6 to 7:30, okay.
Yes. We'll have the City of Fitchburg, F-150 Lightning there. Sounds like a host of other vehicles as well. Didn't see any cyber trucks.
I don't know what the Harley Davidson one is, though.
Electric bike, I guess?
Oh, okay.
Probably. Here's my problem, it was a public meeting instead of community events. Although, if you go to public or community events, the 12th is empty.
That's weird.
I think I've noticed that a couple of times too. I kept thinking, I must be doing something wrong.
After the meeting, then.
No, I think it's not. I think it's not listed as a community event. You would need to either click on all calendars. So if you click through the click on any of those individual dates, and then it'll take you to a link where you can view more than just. There's a select a calendar drop down on the right side, and so then you go to. I'm not sure, Ben, if you know what specifically what calendar it's listed under.
Okay.
So it's there.
But you might have to select other calendars.
They're all checked, and it's still not showing me anything.
So it's under library adults.
Okay, there.
I
I had
don't know if
to
it's
click on the
cross-listed.
date again after selecting them. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there are like 18 or something different calendars you can list something under, and it can be cross-listed on multiple calendars, so community event, public meeting, and the like.
All right.
I don't know what this one is, if it's just library adults or if it's got any other tags. Ben, we might want to see if there's any way that we can at least make sure that it's listed as a community event in the calendar edit.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else for item 6D? If not, if everyone's okay, I can do a discussion on 7D, the update of the Promega event. That's okay.
Okay.
Chris and I attended the Promega event last month at their facility over there and in their new facility. And pretty amazing. I don't know if everybody's been in there, but it's a real beautiful inside. Excellent, nice workspaces. I wish I had something like that when I was working. But it was attended by the Promega employees who come by and visit and chat with different people in the community, different businesses that were there. We had a booth. Ours is right next to the City of Fitchburg's police department.
Oh, okay.
And so they were there. Unfortunately, they brought their canine dog. So as soon as you walked in, everybody saw the dog. Oh, let's pet the dog. So a lot of people spent time talking to the police department and chatting with the dog or hanging out with the dog. But it was a good event, well attended. We had people come up to us, talked about our program, or particularly our recycling program. I think we gave out a lot of recycling brochures.
Oh, nice.
So that was good. And Chris knew a couple of people that were there and spoke with them. The former mayor there, Eric Richardson, was there with his company. But most of the businesses in the Fitchburg area were there represented. So it was kind of nice, a good experience for the Promega employees to hang out. MG&E was there with their EV electrical chargers that they put in their homes. We just recently had one put in ours for our EV vehicle. That was a pretty good deal that they have. And they'll be talking about that tomorrow night too at the EV event. But overall, I thought it was a good presence. It was nice to be there. Nice to see the city police department and RCC there being represented.
Was that event open to the public at all, or was that?
It was just Promega
intended
employees.
for their employees?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually good for us just to walk around and see other people in the community and what they're doing. So
there were a
lot
bunch
of
of
sustainability
Oh,
items that were being shared with the Promega employees. So that was pretty cool. Other than that, it was a real good event, and hopefully we'll be able to do it. I think they do it every 2 years or something like that for their employees. So they had some nice meals for the people and the vendors that were there, snacks and things like that.
Alpo,
What's that?
Alpo for Drago.
Oh, yeah. He was a real nice dog. And he garnered a lot of attention.
I'll bet.
So hopefully we can do that again in a couple of years. So that's where we are with that agenda item. So we have 3 more left. And wow, we were way ahead of schedule.
That's because I'm timekeeper.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think Diane, I know wanted to be here at least for.
Yeah, she wanted to listen to these 3. So. I mean, what do you typically do? You take a break or we take a break or? I've never taken one in an RCC meeting, so.
I mean, I
I
could
don't know what
move
the protocol
that
is.
we go to recess. When did she say she'll be?
I thought they were done, what, at
8:15.
Yeah.
8:10, 8:15.
8:10 or something like that,
Okay.
yeah. So they should be back here shortly. So I think they had like a 15-minute presentation. But you never know, they have a lot of questions. Thanks for joining us, Rick.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I noticed.
Ryan, I think you could just call a recess and then just reconvene at a specified time if you wanted to.
I think you're gonna hang around for the bed drop discussion.
I was more interested in some of the earlier ones, but I'm also interested in the med drop. If you want any background on the original creation of it.
Yeah, I wasn't here, so when it first started.
How was I?
So yeah, when Diane and Chris get back, it'll be nice to maybe have a little input on the history of it. Let's see, where's the Fitchburg Star? Should we have this in here?
We did not. I think we kind of had the,
And Andrew's not
next
here to give
several
an
months
update.
scheduled, so I know Kim had hers this week,
Yeah, Kim's article was in there.
this month, I should say.
Yeah. And so it looks like they're gonna move my article till next year, because that was actually getting your garden ready for the spring.
Right.
That was since the mayor and the county executive took the 2 months of slots, so I'll save it for next year. Trying to think who is next up on the, for an article.
I think Jim Tingham was gonna write an article. Let me see, I had it in.
Yeah, do we have like a table?
Look through the meeting minutes from last month.
I see here, I got the draft, ones that, just put together, Fitchburg Star. Andrew will take on the July article,
Right. So
and Jim will take on August. And I'm gonna do one in September. Have you ever written one, Bill?
I have not. Is that something that the Alder typically does?
I don't
I don't
know.
remember.
Gabrielle do
I
one?
don't know that Gabriella did one. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but you've done one, Ben. I think Phil's done one, or a couple.
Yeah.
So,
We're usually good for a couple of years.
I don't know why you can't.
If there's any topics that you're super passionate about.
I mean, cycling would be a great one. So I don't think we've had one on cycling, have we?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I could do that.
So that'd be a good one. So could we plan on something maybe like October for you? I'll let Andrew know.
Or, I mean, if I don't know, if you have trouble getting articles through the winter, I could do one on winter cycling.
Okay,
So, maybe not October, but more like November or December.
okay.
Yeah,
Let's
not
switch it down for
now.
November then.
Sure.
Winter cycling, okay.
I don't know if it would be overly redundant. I already wrote one last winter on the coming sustainability plan. I could do one once it's finished. That could be, I think it's supposed to be released end of October, but that's no guarantee. So it could be a December or January thing. But because there was already one, there, I'm sure there will be other communications about it. So that would just sort of be if we really need the spot filled.
Okay.
So if I do November, when do I need to, is that typically like a 1 month lead time or 2 weeks or?
Couple of weeks. So usually I try to get it, if like it's due in November, I get it in by October 31st.
Okay.
So. You know, I can't remember, did someone do one on dark sky? I did one.
You did.
Yeah, I did one. Okay. So I was just thinking your lighting ordinance. Do you think that's something that the public should know about or be aware of? I mean, I don't know when it's going to get adopted or approved, so if it does, so. I mean, is that going to go to council? Well, we can talk about it when it's up.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay, yeah, I want to wait till Chris and Diane are here. So. Okay, so Bill, you're November. So Phil, you said you might have something with sustainability plan in December or?
Yeah, it's just, I think if we need the space filled, the hesitation is just that I already wrote an article on the sustainability plan when it was in development. So I could do another one saying, hey, now it's finished and here's what it's all about, but it would be a bit repetitive. And there definitely will be, I'm sure, other communications about it. So the STAR article could be redundant.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of people read the stars, so more so they go into the city website to look for information. So I think the star would be an excellent place for giving people an update on the final copy of the plan and the results. So I'll just put a tentative placeholder for you. We can think about it again in the future.
Sure. Yep. And it also, in terms of STAR communications, there's also a question of whether I would reach out to the STAR to get a specific article about that instead of
Okay.
rather than
article,
an RCC communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good point. So I don't think anybody has anything set for October on the STAR, so we'll have to find a candidate for that, either Chris or Diane. Or Kim.
I see him walking down there.
You see him? Okay, here. So Rick, we'll jump into the next item, which will be the med drop, which will be 7A. Looks like Chris and Diane are walking in. Just in time.
Good.
Really? Yeah. We stalled as long as we could.
Did you?
We
Yeah,
have
we
all
signed
these
up for
items to you
articles.
guys.
Yeah, perfect.
You signed up for art. They were already signed up. I looked at the minutes.
Rick is on, and I think he knows a little bit more about the history of how this kind of med drop was started. I think that would be valuable to hear a little bit more about.
So we can move on to agenda item 7A, discuss removal of the City Hall med drop. Thanks for being available, Rick, and there you are. And it's been mentioned, maybe you could give us a little update on the history of the med drop when it first started and why.
Yes, I didn't prep for digging up some of the specific dates. I want to say that we had, it started really with a special collection event that Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District had requested that Fitchburg participate in. I want to say around about 2012 or thereabouts. I could be wrong by a year or two, but that event was pretty successful. We had Fitchburg Police Department was heavily involved with coordinating with us. We also partnered with MedDrop Dane, and I'm blanking on the woman's name that was instrumental in helping, working with Dave Taylor at the time was the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District contact. And as part of that, there ended up being quite a bit of interest in having a local MedDrop drop-off spot as opposed to doing, continuing to do collection events. So Chad Brecklin at the time was working with the police department. So Chad and I and some other police staff worked on looking at where the potential options could be within City Hall, and ended up coming up with the location that it has been the last 10 plus years, down right near the entrance to the police department. And then just worked on coordinating logistics as far as the signage and information education on, how for people to be able to prepare the medications that they're dropping off and placing in there. We were getting grants the first several years from MedDrop Dane, and that was helping. And then the rest of the funding was being provided by Public Works, but the staffing primarily was Fitchburg Police Department staff that were basically gathering that material and then putting it into a special container that was then, I believe, placed in a secure location until the MedDrop Dane staff came. They hired, I think, Veolia to then transfer that material down to Sargé, Illinois for waste incineration. So anyway, that's a little bit of the background that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm sure I've got additional information that once I start priming, I could talk about more. But that's the gist of what I recall as far as background information.
Do you remember if data was collected on the amounts that was collected every year?
Yeah, I believe we got a report every time that material was picked up. I can't remember if it was weighed as well as volume, but I believe that we would typically put that into at least while I was still working for the city, I believe that I included that into the annual reports that were provided to RCC within the solid waste category.
I have a little more history to add, not the logistical detail that Rick provided, but RCC pushed for MedDrop because people had a habit of flushing their excess medications down the toilet, which is really bad for water life and the environment. And you might remember the frogs that had, 2 heads or 5 legs or something like that. So we really pushed for that and got some resistance. And when we combine that with the fact that we keep these medications out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them, children or whatever, it became a safety issue as well as a water quality issue. I remember the first MedDrop that I participated in was actually in Middleton, because Fitchburg didn't have anything, and the police were out there with their trays, and you dumped the pills in, and that was it. You drove away, and I think legally the police have to be involved. So, and apparently ours, for some reason, our MedDrop here was getting contaminated and became too much of a problem. But I'm wondering if we could do like the day that we do our confidential paper shredding and e-cycling, if the police department would agree to do it for that one day, twice a year, because we had people this last e-cycle day, at least I had people that came through the shredding line that had their extra medications, and I had to tell them that we didn't do that anymore, and Not only that, I don't know where that they could take them. There was that one Saturday in April that a lot of people, a lot of communities have it, but shoot, if you're out of town, like we happen to be, then you're kind of out of luck. So, and besides, I think Fitchburg should be able to provide it for Fitchburg. You know, we shouldn't have to go to Madison or Middleton. So I'm just wondering if we can partner with the police station to at least get it back 2 days a year.
Yeah, and that, I think that would be, well, ideally it would be back permanently, and I don't know, it sounds like there's no plans for that, but maybe if the new police station gets built and they kind of, I understand there may be some staffing issues, and maybe once that's figured out, they would be able to consider having it back, you know, on a regular basis, as it was in the past. I do know they will still be participating in the drug take-back day. I think upcoming in, maybe the last week of October, sometime in October, there's a National Drug Take-Back Day. So I understand that they'll be participating in that.
They didn't, they did not participate in the one in April, right?
I'm not sure if they did or not.
You said that's in October?
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, it's unfortunately it is one of those things where we couldn't just have someone in Public Works kind of staff it. It has to be someone in law enforcement, or I guess maybe pharmacists can. They must be able to, because I think they have med drop locations at some pharmacies.
I was gonna ask about that, like,
Yeah.
you know, Fitchburg Family Pharmacy, Walgreens, wherever else, is that a possibility for people?
Yeah, and I understand that Fitchburg Family Pharmacy has a med drop location.
They do?
I believe so.
I have to go there next week, I'll ask them.
I don't remember seeing one at Walgreens, but I wasn't really looking for one.
I think it has to be behind the counter.
The counter.
Yeah. Well,
So you bring it up to the counter and they take care of it then?
that's my guess. Ben, if we can find places where people can dispose of them, then, you know, maybe we don't need to have this twice a year. But let's just publicize, you know, if you've got these medications, and let's make that available. So, I mean, we can promote the Drug Take-Back Day. I didn't know that that was also in October.
Yes. Yeah, we can certainly do that. We could promote that and assist with their efforts. And I think we'll just kind of have to keep that conversation open. And maybe at some point they would be comfortable with, you know, moving forward with the med drop at City Hall. But
Well, our e-cycle event is only 3 hours. So since people were used to that, it would be nice if they could just staff it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's more involved than what do they do with the meds? How do they drop them off? Maybe there's just more logistics.
yeah, there must be, because it didn't seem like there was much desire to try to do that when I had asked last time. But I think we just have to kind of.
Would it be helpful to invite somebody from the police department to attend one of our meetings?
Yeah, that couldn't hurt. Be interested to get their take on it.
Yeah.
Maybe they could elaborate a little bit more on what they were
Detail,
seeing
yeah.
and what the commitment is.
Gotta be an issue for the, like, you know, the memory care facility that just opened and the assisted living facilities in Fitchburg. Do they all have like private med drop
I
function?
I'm not sure.
My guess is they probably do. Like I think hospice.
Sure.
That would make a lot of
Must.
sense. Yeah.
But I know a couple of years ago, when I was at the ER with my husband, the fellow who was helping us, I don't know if he was a nurse or PA, I'm not sure what he was, he told us just to dump the excess down the toilet. And it's like, are you serious? People are still telling? Yeah, so we need to do what we can to keep it out of the water.
Does MMSD have a program for that, do you know, to help communities?
That's a really good question. I would think that they would, because they can't
Yeah.
get it out. They can't filter that out.
I've got contacts over there, I'll talk to them and see if they do. Because it seems like if not, maybe they could help, fund something or they would have somebody that's qualified, I don't know.
Yeah,
But right now, we only
Yeah,
have 3 pharmacies in Fitchburg. Fitchburg Family Pharmacy, Walgreens and Hy-Vee.
Target has a
Target has a pharmacy?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4.
Target has a pharmacy. So that's a CVS, and I've looked at CVS's website. And I don't believe that location accepts medications for take back. Hy-Vee does. I'm looking at their website right now. All Hy-Vee pharmacies accept drugs for take back. I don't see Fitchburg Family Pharmacy listed on any of the national locations, so they may participate in the National Drug Take Back Day, but I don't know that they do it year round. You'd have to certainly, Diane, if you can check with them when you're there next week, but they're at least not listed.
Anything on Walgreens?
This Walgreens location also does not. The closest one is the Walgreens that's north of the Beltline over near Whitney Way.
Okay.
I'm looking at, there's a safe pharmacy from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy map. So the closest ones to Fitchburg right now, according to them, and they don't include Hy-Vee, but one down in the Oregon Police Department and the Madison Police West District.
Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Good seeing you.
Yeah.
One other thing that might be beneficial to look at is, has the city updated or refreshed the public information that it's been providing on the MedDrop program? And if not, that might be one of the reasons that the police department has been noticing contamination. It would be really good to better understand what that contamination is and see if updates can be made to address that concern. I know that, even right away when the program started, partly because we weren't encouraging people to put the medication into like Ziploc plastic bags, and we're at least for a while we were making Ziploc bags available and encouraging people to do that because by putting the whole container in, it was taking up a lot of space, and so it was overflowing on a pretty regular basis, and so then after that helped once that was done, but it still required, so I think we did some edits to the signage and also the information going out. So it might be good to just look at what whether we've refreshed any of the information to residents, and then also just to get a better understanding of what contamination the police staff was noticing, because they certainly at the time they had some concerns, but they were also they felt pretty strongly that addressing the controlled and uncontrolled substances was pretty important for their role within the city. So
yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I know that up until they discontinued it, they were providing the plastic Ziploc bags at right at the MedDrop location and had some decent signage out there. But yeah, it would be interesting to get a little bit of better understanding on exactly what they were seeing in the drop box that caused this to occur.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
you bet. Thank you.
So someone's going to reach out to the police department
Yeah.
and see if we can schedule them to be.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to item 7B. Phil discussed the Solmar community designation. I know the mayor's interested in this and see if we can get upgraded bronze to something higher.
Yeah, so Fitchburg has been a bronze Soul Smart community. Well, step back a little bit. There is a national Soul Smart program. I believe it's National Renewable Energy Laboratory that oversees this. It's through the DOE. The Soul Smart program encouraged communities to demonstrate that they are friendly to residential solar, especially through easing the permitting process, proving kind of proof of concept demonstration projects, working with community partners, lowering barriers like excessive permitting fees, things like that. So back in 2019, Fitchburg pursued the Soul Smart criteria. Was the first community in the area, I believe. I don't know if Fitchburg or Madison actually was first, but one of the top two communities in Dane County to get Soul Smart designation. We were designated at bronze. We actually have enough points, I believe, to get gold designation, and now that they've released platinum, we're not too far away from that. But there were a few key points that we needed to get that were mandatory to move up to the silver, gold, platinum level. So I've been looking into those over the last couple of years and gotten kind of mixed success on making progress on them. There's been a little bit more renewed push since, as Ron mentioned, a couple of other communities received platinum. Dane County is a platinum Soul Smart community now, as is Sun Prairie. So there were numerous publications kind of bragging about our neighbors getting these high Soul Smart tiers. So that's a little bit more of a fire to push Fitchburg's rating up. Ben put into the packet, I believe, the up-to-date guide for Soul Smart designation, what all the different categories are, where you can achieve points, and what the mandatory criteria are. I thought about putting the whole score sheet that we had from 2019 in there, along with all of my notes and highlights on what needs to be done, but I thought it would be easier to just kind of give the overview. The things that we were slacking on to get up to, or deficient on to get to gold. One was a specific set of training for our inspection staff who review permits, and that's been achieved now. One was posting online a guaranteed 3-day turnaround for residential solar. We are working on that. It's a little difficult with such a small department to promise a 3-day turnaround, just because every once in a while, it's usually pretty easy to get it done in one day, but sometimes you get something more complex, or the one staff member who reviews these is bogs down with other stuff. So we're trying to find a way to make that work. The third one has to do with planning and zoning language. Right now, per state law, municipalities can't erect any unreasonable barriers to solar rooftop development. So there isn't really anything stopping us from putting this zoning language on our website that essentially says solar is expressly permitted in all zoning areas. It's just making sure that we're following the right legal standpoints there, and because we're already looking at adjusting some of our planning and zoning language, the initial thought was we'll just wait until we get through that process and then we'll make this part of it. And now we may want to accelerate this, just because I'm not personally sure exactly when those planning updates are going to take place. And so I'd kind of like to push this faster now. But those are the big things that would need to be done, that if we we did one of the three, if we get the other two done, that gets us to gold. And then there's just a couple more beyond that for getting to platinum, having to do with demonstration projects, which we've already done, and some community partnerships. So Ron had asked that there be an agenda item to kind of talk about where we are with Soul Smart and what's ahead. That's the pretty large nutshell review of it. I don't know if there's anything else, Ron, that you wanted to hear about, or if anybody has any other points you're curious on.
No, I just think what we need to do, I saw your email back to the mayor, gave her a status of where we're at and what the next steps are to be done. So I just wanted to follow up, see, is that action that you're going to be taking to help respond back to her, or
it's
from us?
I don't think there's anything I need from RCC right now. It's just coordinating with a couple of other departments. So these are things that none of them are actions that I can take on my own. So it's about partnerships and trying to make sure that I'm working with other departments and figure out where we can prioritize this. I don't want to minimize the importance of something like this. It is the more we can share information about solar and encourage people to do it and remove any barriers, the better it is. But there are a few things that are a little bit more essential than pushing for the next designation level. And so it's kind of about figuring out where on that priority list we can get this. Once we get past those essentials, I'd like this to be the next one on there.
Okay.
Phil, that gets to what I was going to bring up, considering that staff has so much on their plate already. Is other than bragging rights, let's do a cost benefit analysis of this, and what are the other benefits?
The biggest benefits are, I will say what I told the bike committee when we've been talking about whether we can get from silver up to gold as a bike friendly community. What I told our architect for the police facility when I was talking about getting to LEED, I'd love the plaque. It would be amazing to get the plaque. If the designation doesn't accomplish anything substantial for the city, I don't care anymore. If we're spending a lot of time just chasing after a plaque so we can post it on the wall and it doesn't do anything material to help the city, to help residents, that's just not worth it. So I agree with you. It's not just about bragging rights. So one of these items that would help us get to gold is that 3-day turnaround guarantee. Pushing for that has led us to NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. NREL has developed a tool that we can potentially merge with our OpenGov, our current permitting software, that would automate 70-80% of the residential solar permit applications. We're still looking to make sure that this will work for us in terms of IT being able to incorporate it, in terms of any legal or financial concerns. It is free, but there's stuff in the background that we've got to look into in terms of the merging it with OpenGov. So if we can use that, then automating 70-80% of these applications, one, makes the process easier for residents and contractors. Two, it frees up staff time, so that right now things where Jack Pearson, our building inspector who does most of the solar permitting work, Jack might spend 1 to 2 hours on every solar permit application. If we can free up that time on 70 to 80% of those, especially as we expect more applications because of rebates through the Inflation Reduction Act, that's a pretty substantial benefit to staff time, and that cascades down to benefits to the community as well. So just as one example, there are things that I don't want to pursue these just to get the plaque. But if in pursuit of the plaque, I look at those and I say, hey, these actually are all beneficial in terms of, and that's the point of these designation systems, is we're trying to get cities to pursue things that are going to make this process better. They're going to further encourage solar development, ease solar development along, make it more viable for more citizens. So that's really the goal here. And maybe sometimes you spend an extra 5 hours where you wouldn't have, because that designation does demonstrate that, yeah, we did this, we've taken these steps, we are committed. We've got a sustainability plan that's about to come out. We had a clean energy resolution passed in 2019, and sometimes some of these designations are a way to demonstrate, without pointing to 12 different individual projects over the last year. We point to this designation, and this says, yeah, we actually can demonstrate that we've made substantial progress in an area that we've identified as important.
Would it be useful to have, if we have this designation, a higher one, say a gold or a platinum, when it comes to grant opportunities, does that help?
It can. It depends on the grant. It depends on, I don't think it would necessarily just be as simple as saying, hey, we got this plaque, therefore we're going to get money. It definitely can help in the narrative. Here's a series of things we have already accomplished that demonstrate our commitment, and here's what we'd like to do to move even further forward with this grant funding. So the plaque itself wouldn't necessarily mean we get more grants, but it definitely is one of the types of things that would help provide more substance to a grant narrative. I don't know that there's necessarily that one-to-one direct causality, but it helps more than it hurts, I guess.
Okay,
And, bragging rights are nothing to sneeze at either. I mean, the economic development team probably wants the bragging rights, just having, if we get these designations, we're, gold level bicycle friendly city, we're, platinum level soul smart, that's gonna attract people and businesses to the city. And it's, you can't directly say, you can't draw a line straight from this to that, but it's one of those intangible things that just makes the city more attractive to everybody.
yeah,
It's true.
And I'll say from personal experience, it makes the city more attractive to certain staff. It was a number of the accomplishments Fitchburg already had that was part of why I applied to work here. I wanted to help move things along farther, but if the progress to date had been zeroed, that would have been a little bit less appealing to me. Like, all right, are they really committed?
More of a challenge.
Blessing and a curse. Yeah. I like coming in halfway through. This has been really nice. Have some things to build on. But yeah, I think it can be, as Bill mentioned, attractive to businesses, to residents. But I would say also to staff to say, hey, I'm working for a city that shares my values.
Phil, does the city work with developers in the area to say, hey, if you orient these buildings properly and you put in a little extra conduit here and there, you're going to be setting people up to install solar? Do we have anything like that to encourage the developers to make things easier for people to take these energy saving measures?
I know the information is available. I would have to talk to Diane and Zach over in planning. I'm not sure how much we necessarily push that if we're not asked, but I can certainly check with them and see what that communication is like. I'm not sure. I know that it's something that is from talking with Mike and Joyce. It's something that's encouraged as part of when we have TIDs to districts that encouraging renewable energy in those projects is something that we already do.
okay. All right, thanks, Phil. Any other questions?
Mm-hmm.
If not, let's move on to item agenda 7C, exterior lighting ordinance update, Ben.
Yes, so met internally with department heads about this ordinance, so administration, economic development, planning, and public works, and we were all able to kind of discuss this draft ordinance. Good news is overall people were supportive for some sort of an exterior lighting ordinance. The not as good news, they felt this was a little bit complex and maybe a little bit difficult for staff to review. This would be reviewed by planning, so all of the cut sheets and photometric plans that would get reviewed by planning. And there were several things in here where they just felt they wouldn't really be able to review. That being said,
Can you give some examples?
yeah. So, and I'll share my screen just so everyone can kind of see what I'm looking at here. Let's see, I'll just start off at the top. I highlighted a few things that they got a little bit of feedback on. I think overall, there were questions on how feasible it would be to require compliance with this ordinance language in the event of a change of ownership. I think business or the economic development and planning was really comfortable with that, as well as the existing uses and buildings. And here it said, after a period of 10 years, from the date of enactment of this code. Any lighting in place prior to the enactment date shall come under the provisions of this code. There were concerns that building inspection wouldn't be able to really enforce that.
Because the reason they don't want to go down this is because they don't have the staff or they just don't want to do it.
Well,
I think that their time.
I think it's a staffing issue.
Because when they go through these things to review, they have a lot of things they have to review.
Yeah.
For building or.
So the biggest takeaway I got, they would want to see this ordinance really more directed at future construction, more so than trying to go back in time and see if there's, and I understand it would be a huge effort to, see who's complying with this code as written. I mean, we may not have lighting plans from buildings that were constructed in the, 90s, early 2000s. We just may not have all that information, and it would be a big effort to see who is currently in compliance with the draft plan.
Were they acceptable or receptive to, if things are grandfathered in, starting on this day when the ordinance goes in place and everything new?
Yes, so that is.
That's what they're okay with?
That is what they're okay with, and then.
Wait a minute, because it doesn't sound like any new development you're talking about, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about any new lights put in?
Well, any new development comes in.
Or what if, let me use Pick and Save for an example. What if they decided, whoever owns that parking lot, to update, to put in different lights? You're saying those wouldn't, the staff doesn't want those to come under this, and, right?
No,
Oh.
we would. So if they're going to update their lights, then it would. We wouldn't go back and say, hey, we found these plans and it looks like based on this.
Okay.
But if they're already going to be replacing lights, then yes, So it's more of, the concern was trying to go back and see, hey, does, this business, is their lighting, which makes sense, because that would take a long time.
So under 4, if you could just eliminate the second sentence and they're okay with that, is that right?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see problems with 5, change of ownership. I mean, it applies to all property, right? Residential and commercial.
Right.
I mean, would the owner selling the property be obligated to upgrade before they sell it, or?
Right, so that was another
That'd be a
issue.
cost to them, and
Yeah.
Well,
that's
but I
a
mean,
cost on.
You already have to make sure your building's
Right, yeah.
when you sell it anyway, so this is
Right.
one more box to check.
Yeah.
So then as the city replaces streetlights, they would be following this, correct?
Well, right-of-way lighting would be a little bit different, so we would still want to have right-of-way lighting to have full cutoff fixtures, but for roadway lighting, it's more about just vehicle safety and pedestrian safety. So we may not have, like, for example, there's this table that dictates how much light you can basically have on your parking spaces. We wouldn't really have a table like this for roadways. It would just be kind of dependent on, the type of road, how much lighting is needed for, the assumed pedestrians. So that was another big concern that was brought up. They wanted to make sure that this wouldn't apply to lighting in the right-of-way. They wanted it strictly to apply to, non-right-of-way property, houses, businesses, that kind of thing.
So then will the city come up with their own criteria for right-of-way and?
So the city has fixtures that are specified in the standard specifications book. So any new, like when they go and redo Sain Road or when they did Lacey Road, they had to have fixtures that complied with our existing spec book. And those should be all full cutoff lights. Here's kind of an area where they were concerned about their ability to really review this correctly, like they weren't sure about, you know, the maximum wattage and they just didn't really feel like they would be able to review this piece of it, which, you know, if they're not comfortable with it, I get that. And I did also provide them with some other ordinances in the area, so that's why.
South of Verona one's pretty limited.
It's pretty limited, that's
Age.
that's the one that they really liked. So I know, and that's what I'm trying to kind of do is that the feedback I got, they really liked the simplicity of the Verona one. I think we got to kind of find a way to merge the important pieces of the draft that we put together with the Verona one, maybe take out some of the more complex stuff. I really think if you have full cutoff fixtures, some prohibited lighting, and then kind of a way to permit non-standard lighting like a sports arena or something like that, where there's a route or a way to get kind of special permits. And then you include this table for parking lots, because that's where a lot of the lighting is parking lot lighting. So I think if you can get those three things included, you've got basically most of what you want.
Are Fitchburg's ball diamonds lit?
That's a really good question.
There's lighting at the tennis courts at McKee, right?
Yeah, there is.
I thought a timer though, aren't they? Or-
Yes.
Those are on a timer, yeah.
And
So
then I think, are the pickleball courts at McGaw? They were talking about bringing lighting, but I don't think they've got it
They're
yet.
lit. I do not think they're lit.
anyway, you mentioned sports complexes, and I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't really have a problem with 5 that's in here, although other people obviously do, but can't we have a standard for sports fields? You know, like the pickleball or tennis courts, or can't we incorporate something about that? I mean, it doesn't seem that we should just ask private property owners to do this. What is the city doing?
So I think for the sports fields and recreational facilities, there's still things, they would still have to apply with the general requirements of this of this language. So some of the general requirements would be, let's see here.
Do you have to get a special permit, or is that what you're talking about?
They would have to get a special permit, but then there's also like, you know, light curfews, what else do I say? So all fixtures greater than 500 lumens shall be full cutoff, so they would still have to be full cutoff lights.
The cities,
The cities,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We do have just 6 minutes left and one more agenda item to get to. I don't know how much time we need for that, but
Which one?
it's the update of the Promega event.
Oh, I already updated.
We did that.
We already did that. Yeah, I did that.
Oh, right. You covered that. Sorry. All right. We have 6 minutes left then. Carry on.
So yeah, it would still have to comply with being full cutoff, and it would still have to comply with, the lighting system would have to be extinguished or reduced to 50%. I mean, in a sports field, it's either gonna be off completely or on if there's.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right, yes. So the intent would be that, you know, park lighting would still have to comply with the general standards in here. So what I'm gonna try to do is simplify this down, put something together that I think can actually get passed.
Yeah.
And then I think I can do it this week and just share it with the group. And move forward from there.
And
Is the council aware of this or what's going on?
no, this is well, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but this was the first I've heard of this. I mean, the first I've seen an actual draft. I've heard rumblings of a dark sky or a lighting.
Gabrielle was gonna share stuff.
I don't remember.
She may
if
have
said
made
that.
mention of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I've heard talk of it, but this is the first concrete evidence I've seen of it.
Okay.
Section 22860.1A says all fixtures greater than 500 lumens shall be full cutoff or shielded or installed so that there's not a direct line of sight between the light source or its reflection on a point 5 feet or higher above the ground at the property boundary. And I'm thinking of one of my constituents who lives across the street from the courtyard, which installed full cutoff lighting, but it still floods her bedroom. So the bit about no direct line of sight from a point 5 feet or higher at the property boundary shouldn't be an or, that should be like a hard requirement, because the last sentence says, it shall not be of such intensity so as to cause discomfort or annoyance, and that just sounds like there's no way that anybody, I can say that it's annoying to me, and the city can say, why would you be annoyed by that?
Yeah, it's subjective.
Yeah.
And I think part of the issue maybe with that one was the height of their fixtures. And I guess I haven't really been over there at night, so I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I think there was maybe an issue with just it being so high. And I didn't look at the photometric plan for it, but when you get higher up, it's going to spill out further and further. And there isn't anything in this draft language about maximum fixture heights.
No, but if the fixtures are that high and you still have direct line of sight at 5 feet at the property boundary, that means you don't have enough shielding.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at here. Too many ors.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I think this is a good start, and I appreciate all the time and effort you put into this to get this moving forward, because I think it's something we really need. When I was talking with the mayor, she's really for this as well. So let's see what we can do to get some compromise between the other parties.
And I think we can. Like I said, I thought overall, everyone I talked to for the most part was supportive of it. Just wanted it to be a little bit more simplified.
Well, I think compromise is the key, because some of the things that they don't want, maybe we still do.
Right, and I think it's good, because I think the draft that we put together was really robust.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we anchored well, so now we can take some things out without really losing the intent of it.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing to mention, we're converting a lot of our sodium vapors over to LED, and like people who do astronomy, they don't mind sodium vapor lights because there's just like one, it's almost monochromatic, there's like one peak that they need to filter out when they're looking at the sky. With the LEDs, it's typically an ultraviolet LED that hits a layer of phosphorus and produces a whole spectrum of light. So any of the LED light that leaks upward causes the astronomers a whole lot more pain than the high pressure sodium vapor does.
Ooh, that's tough, because I know the city's going through a LED conversion and it is more energy efficient.
But so it's just more important to make sure that it's
shielded.
fully shielded.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice job on this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I
Both of
think,
you, thanks for sticking with this, because it's been a haul.
Yeah.
I think we're at a good point though to get it through.
Okay, well, I gave him an update on the Promega, I don't know if you want anything you want to add. That was a good event.
Good event, and I think there's an opportunity for us to do outreach. You probably already mentioned that, Super Mega. So I think we'll try to pull them into more events going forward.
Yeah, they do it every 2 years, right?
They do the employee services event every 2 years. So yeah, I got some of the notes. I'll share out what I have. I missed the council update, so good to see the update for that. People can always watch. But otherwise, thanks.
All right. That's it. Any other comments or anything?
Ben, you're gonna work on the budget amendment then?
Yes.
But thanks, no. Thank
Nice
you,
help.
everyone, thanks for accommodating our schedule.
Well,
Yeah.
not a problem.
It was a full house.
It was very well
40 people
attended,
that we
yeah.
were talking to, probably 30 or 40 people, I'd say.
I would say, yeah. And we asked, how many of you get the star? And everybody there gets the star, so.
It depends on the neighborhood and location, yeah.
And I'll just commend you for being dedicated enough to leave a meeting and then actually come back.
When there was beer available.
Beer, food, yeah.
Wait, where was this?
Yeah, it was like a good time. We were all business, like within a minute of getting in the room, we were giving our presentation. And as soon as we were done, we were back in the car within like a minute and a half.
Wow.
So we were,
Pretty efficient, yeah.
yeah, and we even said hello to a few people along the way.
We did have, one woman asked about a composting program in Fitchburg, and it's like, come on, were you listening to our
Why don't
meeting?
you come on? You need
She's
a
like,
ride.
she had one in Ann Arbor, and she's like, we're long overdue. You guys did a pilot in 2012, like 12 years is too long, so it was pretty impressive. I'm like, well, this is hot off the press. So,
Like a plant.
Speaking of composting, we have that email we got from, was that company called?
Green box?
Yeah, Green Box.
I am going to try to see if they can maybe come and give, I mean, since we're kind of on a roll here. I don't know.
We'll have an agenda item next week, and we'll talk about green, or not next month, not next week.
Are we gonna invite them to talk about their program?
Well,
Have you heard of it, Green Box?
yes,
No?
but it sounds like July's gonna be a pretty busy time, because we have the RFP discussion.
Yeah, so it could be, I mean, it's not like the food scrap is going to Green Box, so we could have them in August too. But, you know, we could also set up a tour and go out and see their place. So
Yeah,
like,
that'd be nice.
these are all things that we could,
Where's
let's just
their,
get the conversation going
where is their place?
on Sun Prairie. So, I mean, I think we're trying to understand organics, so like we need to understand what our options are right now, and so we can promote certain options. I mean, we don't need to promote a business per se, but we can promote.
And another sticky point is, you know, the growing trend in, okay, this looks like a plastic cup, but it's actually made of plants, you know, and compostable plates and compostable plasticware and stuff, you know, and I can't toss that in my backyard compost pile, it'll be there for decades.
Yeah, right.
And I also don't feel right about putting it in the landfill, but I can't put it in the recycling either.
And based on sustained gain, you can't put it in their compost either.
Right.
I know those compost bags take a long time to decay.
Maybe we
I
could,
still have them in my backyard in the ground.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had some decay in the box.
Oh,
I
wow.
went to use them, and it's
Where
like,
are you storing them?
just in your normal closet.
Yep. What's that?
I don't think we're officially adjourned yet.
Oh, I turned it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we're still on.
Oh. Oh, we're done.
Adjourn.
Yeah, I turned it, yeah.